ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions, your home for all things psycho. This is your host, Daniel Muller. Today we're going to take a look at Matt Lesniewski's Static. So, I don't really know a ton about Matt Lesniewski. He did an Eisner-nominated book called The Freak. He's done a few other things, and I met him actually at Planet Comic Con. I saw him on Instagram probably about 6 months ago, and his work really stood out to me. It was really unique. I think I met him just through the various other artists that I follow and interact with, and just just completely stands on his own as an artist. And I saw mostly he was doing commissions of different Marvel and DC characters, and they looked like nothing I've ever seen before. So when I knew he was going to be at Planet Comic Con here in Kansas City, I was really excited, and I basically bought every book that he had at the table. Totally geeked out all over him, poor guy. But he was very nice, just very shy fellow. Which I understand. I think having to interact with people all day at a convention would not be the easiest thing. But anyway, so we're going to take a look at his book Static, which came out from Dark Horse. So I believe it still is a creator-owned book, copyrighted by him, even though it's a Dark Horse imprint. So it's kind of a mix between both. So I know that Dark Horse has had a pretty cool history in the past of promoting some creator-owned stuff, and they're one of the more mainstream publishers. Came out in 2021, so I would like to kind of dive in, take a look. Immediately, the striking cover is really cool, nice simple logo. So you get to kind of see a little bit of Matt's style, just that there's an almost abstract quality as well as very cartoonish, but at the same time has a lot of detail. Just incredible work. Incredible work. Again, I love the beads of sweat in the veins, and you're going to see this. It's very pronounced by the way that he shades the forms of his figures, and yeah, the veins, man. Veiny Matt. I'm going to call him Veiny Matt. So let me get Mr. Natural out of the way here in my coffee, and we'll kind of dive in and take a look. So this is not part of the book. Matt did give me a sketch of his main character, Emmett Stone, so that was really cool. He was actually taking quite a bit of time, and I think was going to make it even more detailed. But there was a line that began to build up behind me, and I was getting nervous, and I was like, ha 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 ha, you don't need to do that if you don't want to. But also at the same time, I was like, yes, because I love his work. Noting on the colorist, Carlos Badilla. Not really familiar with colorists as I should be, but his coloring really complements Matt's style. It's also worth noting that his first book, his Eisner-nominated one, The Freak, had no coloring at all and no shading. So we'll be taking a look at that as well, because I absolutely loved it. And that was out by Ad House Books, so I'm not even sure it's available anymore. So immediately we get this scene, and there's a section in the back where Matt kind of talks about some of his process. And this is one of the pages that he did the most, the very first, because he really wanted to set up the style and the routine of his main character. So we just get him in this disheveled apartment or house, collapsed on the floor, and waking up with this headset on, completely torn to shreds. Just really great pacing. So the thing I was very intrigued to see was that Matt's work is so detailed, and like when I see his images on Instagram and when I saw him draw live, he's just so big. His images pop so much that I figured there would be a lot of, big splash pages, and there are some, but I was really surprised to find that he was essentially following a 9-panel grid. So there's just so much happening in each panel, and there's not a lot of words at first, and even through various parts, because he really allows the sequential narrative to really move the story along. And at first I was slightly disappointed because I wanted to know more what was going on in this character's head, and you'll get that. But really, the way that he draws the character tells the story, which I believe is what Matt was going for. And so, if you really dive deep into each panel and just take your time with it, you can feel the pacing, you can feel the struggle that the character is going through. Waking up at just, throughout the whole story itself. So he gets up, lights a cigarette, goes to the cabinet, gets out this jar of bugs, which becomes a very prominent feature, and goes outside, and it's in a desert setting, and buries this jar in the yard. And that's what we get. After that, he goes inside and he showers, bandages himself up, makes himself some coffee. Don't mind if I do, Matt. And then he takes off. So I remember in an interview I saw Matt is very interested in desert settings, even though he lives on, I believe, the East Coast. I'm same here, Matt. I love desert settings. Very drawn to it myself, not only as an artist, but just in life in general. So kind of interesting, fun cars, floating cars. So we're in this kind of futuristic setting. He's on his headset, and there's somebody who keeps getting on the phone with him and asking for money. And he's like, I'm not into that shit anymore. I'm off that. Blah blah blah. So you get the sense that he's on some sort of drug, and hangs up on the guy. And then Emmett Stone goes and starts hunting down these particular animals. Gets into really, the action in this is so fun because you get these really weirdly shaped characters, the way Matt draws, and to see them in full-blown action, as well as just even sitting around, it's just incredible. So his action has, of course, a little bit of anime influences, but there's also something else to the quality as well. There's I don't know, it's not too just there's not so much movement that you're not going to be able to see every individual detail that's taking place. So he has this battle with these two rhino cow-like creatures. So any of the animals that you see in this book are definitely not of this world. So we don't know if this is another planet. We don't know if this is a dystopian future where the animals are mutated, and I don't think it really matters. So he takes out these animals, gets out a bag to put something in, and then we see him arriving at a particular house, not his own. He comes in, he goes into a secret compartment downstairs, he's carrying something in his satchel, and we meet this scientist. And I can't really remember his name. But this is a great spread. We get this mad science laboratory. I mean, the amount of detail. And again, this is where, and I've seen Matt's work without coloring, and it's just as effective. He's so hyper detailed, but as a colorist, well, I wouldn't consider myself a colorist, but I've colored stuff myself. I would be completely terrified to take on something like this. But the colorist, Carlos Padilla, just really compliments Matt's work, really highlights it. I would think it would be really easy to screw this up. but just amazing. Great just use of different shades of coloring and the way he breaks everything out. So we get this indication within the story that Emmett is collecting items from animals for this scientist who is blending different parts of animals together into these almost Frankenstein type creatures. And the scientist seems really likable to him. I mean, he's obviously crazy, but he's being very nice, very cordial, actually, and very, you get the sense that they're really friendly with one another. And so, anyway, Emmett is done, and he takes off, and he goes back home. And then we see him lying in bed, and he is having all sorts of what looks to be withdrawals. He's sweating, he's twisting and turning. See, his bed is caked with sweat. So just the detail is astounding. I can't get a good beat. My camera is not focusing the way I want it to focus right now. Even more so than a character speaking, with Matt's work, I'm feeling the character of Emmett Stone more than most characters that I read in a book. Because of the way that he paces everything, and you see Emmett go through his day, bit by bit by bit, and the expressions. I mean, kudos, Matt. I cannot give enough props and congratulations to an astounding work well done. So Emmett gets all freaked out, runs outside, digs up that jar of bugs, brings it inside, gets out one of the bugs, and he's taking a look at it and brings it to his chest. It pinches him, then it lets go, and he lets it go, and then he collapses. So that was the drug, that jar of bugs. So Emmett is addicted to this drug that is basically bugs that pinch you, and somehow you get this high. So that's the first chapter, really. And then so beyond that, we get another scenario where Emmett is being called by this fellow, and he hangs it up, and he's trying to, and so we can see that he doesn't look as disheveled. So his body is obviously very dependent upon the drug. He goes downstairs, tries to see how much money he has. Evidently, by the use of the word fuck, he does not have as much as he wanted. And then he goes and he pours out the rest of the bugs. So burying it wasn't enough. So he pours it into the toilet and flushes it. He takes a trip out to what looks to be his ex-wife, and he has a son, and she won't let him see him, but he leaves the money for them anyway. And then we get these characters who are basically a gang of drug dealers, and they're hunting Emmett down because he did not pay for the drugs. So he is, they go to his apartment, they run through his stuff, they can't find anything, and so basically they burn it down. So what we get is Emmett in this desperate situation where he's still hunting down animals for this guy. I mean, just look at the veins and just the weird contortion, of the characters. It's just astounding. And again, that color really pops. It really helps complement the art in an amazing way. I'm not going to go through the rest of it because really I want you all to go out and buy it and support Matt Lesniewski. I'm horrible at his name. I mean, look at this weirdness. This is incredible. If you like weird sci-fi stuff with a lot of action, with a lot of just quirky sort of art that is definitely nothing you will see anywhere else, you've got to pick up this book. You got to pick up this work. I loved the book from beginning to end. I couldn't put the book down, actually. It's incredible. So, again, I'm not going to go all the way through the end because I want you to read it. So, no spoilers here. But it's cool. We get to see some process work in the very back by Matt. Just the different iterations. There's that first page, like I was telling you, and he does give some, details about his process, which is always fun. I love that, and even down to just drawing the layouts of like the apartment, like the blueprints and stuff, which I'm down with. I do the same thing in many cases, so I can just know where everything is at in a character's setting, especially when the setting is so important. And then you can see some page breakdowns and things like that. And this was the image for the first cover, and this was the image for the self-published Static before Dark Horse picked him up. So evidently he self-published it and pushed it out at cons and things like that. So really cool image. It's obviously very emblematic to the character. It's almost an icon. And I get that. I have that with some of my characters. Myself, you have this like one pose that is like the typical pose, almost like Wolverine has like just like the same pose with his claws out. It helps create a brand, and helps the character kind of stand out as its own icon amongst all the other characters that are out there in the world. So really love it. 100% Matt Lesniewski. You're a genius. I can't wait to dive into The Freak, as well as a series of other comics that he has out that I'll do another review on as well, because I just cannot get enough of this artist. The only thing I felt bad about is that I did not get a commission out of him, but maybe someday I will, because I'm going to be following this sucker to the end of my days. Love it. So check it out. Static. There'll be a link in the description. Please like and subscribe. Keep it psycho.